Hey, welcome everyone to a Friday night live stream. Haven't done one of these in a while, but we have a long holiday weekend, and I figure, Sam reached out to me. Are you doing something live tonight? And I was like, hey, why not? Let's just go for it. A little later start, because the kids are off today, and of course, getting them to bed was much more difficult. Anyway, Sam, how are you? Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Tell
Yeah,
us.
good. Yeah, glad to be back on. Really, yeah. I don't know. I was sat around watching TV, and I was like, I wonder if Bobby's doing a live stream on Friday night. It would be pretty cool because we just do the one now. We just do the Sunday social,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's more kind of evening time for the UK, but mid afternoon for the US. So
Right,
yeah, no, I'm
right.
glad you span it up, and glad everyone's joining.
Yeah. Hey, so now do you do your Sunday stream in the early afternoon? You mentioned UK hours, right? And so it's early in the afternoon for US. Are most of your viewers from the UK?
D- I don't think so. Actually, I think
Mm,
a lot are US based. So we have a panel obviously from all over the
yeah,
US,
yeah,
and then Dave joins from the UK, Pete joins from Australia.
right.
So we have a lot. It'd be quite. I should really look at the demographics, shouldn't I, of the last live stream and let you know where, because yeah, I mean that's the one thing I've always thought, is it should I cater more to the US? Let me just see here. So we, yeah, so 35% is United States, and then
Mhm,
United Kingdom is 17%, and then Canada, and then Australia
yeah,
after that. So, but those are current demographics who've watched it in its entirety,
sure.
I'm guessing, rather than
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly when it went live, but
Yeah, it's always a struggle for me to figure out like when is a good time because most of the people who um, watch my streams are U.S. based. We do have some people from, like Thomas and Maison. They're in the UK, and then sometimes we get some people from Australia watching it too, and Canada as well. And so, like the 9 o'clock hour seemed to be a very good timepiece, time to do it, especially like quarantine. I was doing like 3 streams a week. I was doing a Tuesday. Amin had his Tuesday stream. That's where the genesis of the Tuesday stream started, and then I would do Friday, and then Sunday I also did one, and that turned into morphed into Watch Soup, and it seemed like that 9 o'clock time worked. And then like as we were unraveling out of quarantine and everybody was much more social and whatnot, and the 9 o'clock one seemed to be well, people are going out on Friday nights. You know what
yeah.
I mean? And then Sunday nights, people are getting ready to go to work the next day. So it's morphed, and I still think like the Tuesday night's probably the best time for me, or for the people who watch the streams. But every once in a while, it's nice to spice it up with a Friday or a Sunday. Um,
Yeah.
hey, what do you got on wrist?
I just realized before I joined this, I was gonna swap it out, but that would have been a bit disingenuous. But I've actually been wearing a Garmin most of it.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah, I've been wearing a Garmin. I got it last week or something. Thought I would test it out because I've
Yeah.
been testing those smart G Shocks out. Casio
Hmm.
have been very kindly sending me the last couple of smart ones, the Range
Hmm.
Man and the Square.
Yeah.
The problem is that there's a big gap in terms of functionality between a Garmin and Apple Watch and G-Shock. Even though I love the G-Shock aesthetic,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
still quite far behind. I mean, the sensors and stuff are solid, but it's the software and how it links
Hmm.
together and how you can
Hmm.
map stuff. I mean, the Garmin links with so much other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, and I was hoping it would make me more active, which jury's still out on that one. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have my vintage Zin 903 that I was
oh,
wearing this
beautiful,
afternoon and evening,
yeah.
but most of the day today I was wearing a G-Shock. I was wearing my not the G the second gen um what's the guitarist? Um
Oh yeah, Y- John Mayer.
Mayer, John Mayer. Because I was mowing the lawn, and I like actually wearing that watch when I'm doing when I'm mowing the lawn for some reason. I don't know, it just works for me. But yeah, yeah. Anyway, let's say hello to the chat, and then we'll talk about something that's going on with you collection wise. I'm always interested in where people are going with their direction, the direction of their collections, and so you reached out to me today, and we have a little topic going on today for this evening. Dib is here. How you doing, Dib? Bill K, how you doing? Good to see you, sir. FP Wilson's here. Symphony from the Bezel. Maison's here. Caliber. Oh, another guy from Canada. Jean-Claude Beaver is here. Bill K, what's up? How you doing, Bill? Cabby Lake, good to see you. So you've been your collection's morphing a little bit, right? And you had mentioned to me that you are downsizing. Now, tell us what pieces are downsizing if you're comfortable sharing, and then maybe we'll go and talk about, like, why is it, why are you doing this, and is it leading to something else? So please, Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I've downsized a lot actually. Probably from most of this year, I've downsized, and some big pieces have left the collection. I've
Mm,
still got a couple more to go actually as well. So I've so I've never liked to have a big. I think I'm more when I get a watch, I'm more like, could that be the one watch? And then I end
mhm.
up just wearing that often. I'm not somebody that looks at an entire box and I'm like, oh, I'll pick that one today. I'll pick that one today. I've got like a weird mentality with it.
Yeah.
So I end up just leaving watches and then I feel really guilty that I'm not wearing them. And could somebody else have that
Mm,
enjoyment out of it as well? And
mhm.
also, one of the curses of being a watch reviewer is you're constantly getting a
Yeah.
flow of watches in. And I think once, maybe we can go into this more later, but once I've done the review, I guess I think of them as like movie reviews or like restaurant reviews. Like, oh, I've eaten the meal. Like I don't need to go back to that restaurant every single day to have the
Right.
same meal. So some
Right.
some not all watches, but some watches
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that was
Yeah.
amazing. That watch was amazing. And then then I'm on to the next thing. So
Right. Right.
yeah, I usually give those away or move them on, or could somebody else get more enjoyment out of them?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
plus, I can't keep them all because it would just be boxes full. And I'm trying to be more disciplined in the ones that I do take in for review as well
Yeah.
nowadays.
Well, I mean, like, it's hard when when you got a channel going, right? Because you do need, if your focus is going to be on reviews, right?
Mm,
You need to bring watches in. Now, you can't always depend on a brand to do that. You can't always depend on, maybe supporters to do that. Sometimes you have to bring in, especially if you want to review the latest and greatest. And as I know, um, if something comes out and you want, to have a successful review, aka, I mean, meaning, uh, views, right? You have to get that watch in, right?
mm.
And sometimes that means you got to buy the watch, and then, I mean, how many Citizen Sayosas could you have, right? And keep in your collection, right? You have to move them through, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just did that with it, and this isn't me complaining, but I did that with the Kith Hoyer, the new tag
Hmm.
Kith Hoyer. I actually
Hmm.
bought it from the boutique, first tag I've ever bought, used or new,
Yeah.
and I did that primarily because I wanted to get a video out. It didn't do as well as I thought. I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, Brit Pierce did a much better job of her analysis of it than I did. My
Yeah.
unboxing, I thought it would do a little bit. So, and I was really sort of encouraging my wife to wear it, but really she's an Apple Watch fan.
Yeah.
And she wore it a couple of times, and then I asked her, she's like, "No, I do like it," which was like the kiss of death for it. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was one that I did move on. Um, and also because I guess it was in that window where I could sell it for what I got it
Hmm.
for. In fact, somebody sent me a really nasty message on eBay about how they thought I was flipping it basically.
Yeah.
But I'd put that it was used.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay. So then maybe we should talk more about, like, core collection, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to watches that come in and out of the collection. You're downsizing your core collection,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So for you, right, and you had mentioned that having too many watches, I mean, for me, sometimes I feel like if I have too many watches in the box, I do get some anxiety because I'm not wearing them. But it's usually because I'm surrounding myself with watches that I'm okay with, right? That
Yeah.
that's not like my favorite. You know what I mean? Like if I have like 10 watches that I love, I don't I don't feel anxiety. But if I have like 5 watches that I love and 5 that I'm about, you know, maybe that I didn't necessarily get in for a review. It's just because, oh, I liked it and I want to get it and I want to see if it works. Then that's when I feel the anxiety. So is that similar to what you're experiencing? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar. I think my core collection. So I have 5 watches that I would never and can never get rid of. Because I've either inherited them.
Hmm.
So they are like my grandfather's Casio LCD watch, it was quite a basic one, but he wore it since the 70s. And then my other granddad's Timex watch, which is
Hmm.
just a simple Timex watch, and then I have a CWC G10 watch, which I wore for a long time because in the UK in the 90s, you could pick them up because they were issued and
Yeah.
people were coming out of the military. They weren't sought after, the G10 watches, so you could get them at antiques fairs and stuff. You could get them at used, at secondhand stores. The G10 watches for 20 or 30 pounds. It's wild to me that they sell those for $300 dollars now, or
Hmm.
£300. I can't comprehend it. But
Yeah.
uh, so so I wore one for ages, and then, long story short, I gave it to my father-in-law. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years afterwards, so it came back into mine. So that will always be a keeper. And
Yeah.
then I've got a vintage Seiko speed timer, which was sourced by Todd, who joins me on the live stream, and he got
Hmm.
it all serviced and repaired. So that's a special meaning to it as well. So those are 4 or 5 that will never get rid of.
Yeah.
But then everything else is in. I think
Imply.
everything else is in play,
Yeah.
basically, more or less.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple of watches that I have that will never go anywhere as well. I have two. I have a Panerai Luminor that I have, and a Girard-Perregaux Seahawk. It was like the first luxury watch that I ever bought. I've had both those watches um, for about um, 16, 17 years, I think.
Well,
So I've had them for a really, really long time, funny enough, right? And there's watches that have come and go that I swore would have never left the collection. Rolex Mariner being one of them, right? I had a Kadoki too that I thought would never go anywhere, and several other watches that I felt that way. But um, but they seem to have circled out, and I wondered to myself, Sam, like like how would my collection be okay? So first of all, am I an enthusiast or a collector? Right? I mean, I think
yeah.
we know Pete had a video on that a couple of months ago about that. So I struggle with that. Okay, let's set that aside. Would my collection be any different now if I wasn't on YouTube?
Yes. I mean, I think the answer to that is, for me, is definitely yes. Because not only are you, it's the YouTube content you're consuming as well,
Hmm.
isn't it? Because a lot of watches is about what they say about you, and
Hmm.
is this the type of collector stuff that you gravitate to
Yeah.
naturally? But yeah, I think as well, handling so many watches as well, especially when you review, luckily enough to handle so many watches when you review them, there's stuff that I guess maybe it saved me from buying some watches that I perhaps wouldn't have liked as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if I hadn't been on YouTube, it would be, maybe I would have a lot more, because I wouldn't
Mhm.
have like a transactional relationship with a lot of them.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you just nailed it there for me. Like, I have a transactional relationship with a lot of watches that come in, and so like I'm used to that. Like that's like
Yeah.
part of like what I do now, right? They come in, I say they're keepers, and then they go, you know. And if I didn't have a channel, I think I'd probably not have bought as much as I had, right, because of the turnover,
Yeah.
and probably have kept more than I've actually have right now. And I probably would be much more, well, I definitely would have less anxiety about it, I think. You know what I mean? Like, I think I would have been because I probably would have paced myself, right? And when I pace myself between watch purchases, those watches tend to stay. When I buy month after month, those are the ones that go.
Yeah, it's totally agree. I'm exactly the same. I even sold my what argue the watch that I would have owned the longest would have been my Speedmaster,
Mhm,
but I ended up selling that. And it's funny because I made a video on it. I think I might have delisted the video now because at the time I talked about it was in two parts. I talked about the reasons why I sold it, which were genuine reasons, but then I had a bit of a monologue at the end about Omega at the time, and that was when they were doing the hockey stick price increases, where it was,
mhm,
within a 6 months to a year
yeah,
period, they went from being, oh, that's obtainable, like I could go and buy a Speedmaster for $3,000 or whatever
yeah,
at retail, and then they just went. Poof. So
yeah,
I made and it ended up being a bit ranty about Omega, so I think I might have delisted it. But the reason I sold it was because I had it serviced, and I'd always bought it. I bought it used, and it was all banged up when I got it. So I'd always treated it as not as like a precious artifact.
mhm,
And once I got it serviced and polished it, it came back and it was pristine. And I'd never
yeah,
seen it because I wasn't the original owner. I'd never seen it
yeah.
like that. But the comment that I get most often on that is it was the watch that I wore to my wedding, and most people's the comment is, "I can't believe you sold your watch that you got married to." And my reply is that I'm still married, like, my wife is still here, like, that is the most important part
Yeah,
of that day, I think.
yeah,
Not, not the
yeah,
I don't have the shoes that I wore, I rented the suit, I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
the wedding cake, I think I ate that the week after, so
yeah, yeah. That's funny 'cause I had, like, an opposite relationship with a wedding watch than you had. When I first got married and I bought, this Tourneau Gotham instead of the Submariner that I wanted to get, I got talked into it. That marriage only lasted 2 years. The watch I still had for, like, 6 or 7 years afterwards,
yeah,
and
but
eventually
also
sold it, but
yeah, I mean, that was we don't have kids either, so I think
yeah.
if perhaps if I'd got a watch when if like when a child was born or whatever, that
No,
would be different, I think, but
no, you'd
no.
have sold it. I did. I saw so, no.
I was just throwing one out there in case anybody's
No,
referring to this
no, no,
commentary.
I see right through that one.
Yeah, yeah, no. So yeah, I think the watches that I keep, like my grandfather's watch that I've got, I always remember him wearing it. Like he was
Mm,
big into. I think
yeah.
he's the reason why I like watches because he was actually into clocks. But I
Mhm.
always remember him wearing this Casio LCD watch.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Let's hit up the chat a little bit,
yeah,
and then we'll
absolutely.
follow up, I guess, another question for you. MJ, working my way to a 3 watch collection. After that, I'm done. Really, really. Right, MJ. Well, best of luck. I hope you do work yourself to a 3 watch collection and it works out for you. Wilson saying even Dib isn't good enough to flip a tag. Dib is very good at um, selling some watches that come in. I mean, he likes to experience watches.
Yeah,
3 cool watches is enough. Hey Bruno, how you doing? Good to see you. Maison, I am trying to be very particular about the watches I get. Having to save to buy helps. That cause all serves to limit how many I buy. So hopefully won't get into too many situations. Well, Maison, you have an exquisite watch collection, so I'm sure you know what you're doing and you're doing the right thing. MJ, YouTube influences for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, Caliber shocked when legs sold the absolutely. I was shocked myself. Um, but with the Submariner, and I know you. I mean, I won't let I won't speak for you, okay? M- But I have a feeling that the same reason why I sold the sub is probably a reason why you sold another watch that you had, or maybe not. Mine was that like I felt guilty having that watch in the watch collection in a sense that like okay, we have like house repairs to do and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so like like maybe this is not the right time to have this piece. You know.
Uh,
Mm, mm,
Totally, I am totally on the same page. I sold my date just that I had,
mhm.
and it, it's that was the same thing. I think that's the kiss of death for a watch in my collection. If I look at it and it seems like there's a stack of bills there
Yeah.
instead of like an emotional, because I bought the date just and that watch is amazing. That date just is absolutely amazing. But on two occasions, I didn't bring it somewhere because I was just like, oh, I'll just be safe. Like one was I think it might have been one was a cruise and another one was a holiday. And I realized when I was there, I was like, I could have worn it because nobody would have really noticed it.
Yeah.
But then I was like, the fact that I even thought about it, and then the fact that it was at home, and I was like, oh, it's at home. You know, not that anybody would have broke in, but if somebody had broke in, I felt guilty. Like that's money sat there
Yeah.
that I'm worried about. That same thing with you. Like if there was a house repair that needed to be happened, I how liquid was it? It turned out that I actually ended up selling it on eBay, which
Mm,
we can talk about selling like a high value piece like that on eBay. I'm not sure.
yeah.
Did you sell your sub on
No, no.
Collection
I,
Premium?
I I reached out to there's a social media there's a group on one of the social media platforms that is a dealer group, and so or mostly a dealer group, and that's how I sold mine. Yeah, I didn't do the eBay route. I didn't do like the watch you seek or the
That's really
Reddit
nice.
route. I just wanted to go a more legit, not the legit, more direct, quick kind of like sale kind of thing.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting process selling that date just because I'd worn it like it was the smooth bezel, so it wasn't
Mhm,
in mint condition. I'd worn it. I was determined to wear it, and I tried to sell it to two dealers or online dealers,
mhm,
and then I ended up selling it on eBay. But the first one, which I thought was interesting, was I added it to Hodinkee to see what Crown and
mhm.
Caliber would, and they're not buying
They weren't
Rolexes.
buying. Yep, yep.
Yeah, they'll only offer you a voucher for it,
Right,
and
right.
interestingly, I don't know if you did this experiment, but the
Yep.
voucher was what the resale value of the watch was, so more than what I'd actually paid for
Yeah,
the watch,
yeah,
but it was a gift voucher.
yeah, yeah. I've had that experience. For a long time, just to get an idea of what a watch was worth. Me and people that I know, we would go to Crown and Caliber and use that tool. And then I noticed that when I was about ready to, when I hadn't made the mental decision to sell that piece, and of course it took like a couple months to actually go through with it. But when I started, I went to Crown and Caliber, and they weren't even offering cash for a sub, right? Which was shocking to me. They gave me the voucher, and it was more than what it was worth, or more than I mean, I paid retail for it, but I was shocked. I was shocked for sure.
Yeah, but the thing with the voucher is that then you're tied to buying another watch
Exactly,
from them, aren't you? At
exactly,
the
and
at the full retail
yeah,
price.
yeah, yeah, and I just at the time wanted the cash, right? Um, hey James, good to see you. Uh, Cabby, he's got down to three, but saving for two. Okay. And James is saying, I'm now actually serious about downsizing after buying a car. Right.
Yeah.
Um, Bry50 says, I've told myself that I'm done buying watches about 10 times, currently awaiting a delivery on another one. Yeah. Definitely been down there. So look, I've gone through ebbs and flows with my
Yeah.
collection over the years. I get to a point where I downsize, and then it ramps up again. Has that been like your modus operandi, like historically? Yeah.
Yeah, this is the most I've ever got down to.
Hmm.
I think probably yeah. I guess I've got 3 or 4 watches that are down to where, including this Garmin, I've got the Christopher Ward Elite 1000 titanium uh, dive watch. I've got the Fears
Mhm.
Redcliffe, which actually with this I will be selling this one after I do the review. And then I've got the do you know what? I've always tried to look for a perfect watch, like one that has everything.
Yeah.
And I was surprised to find the watch that I'm wearing the most is from a brand that I don't like, which is Bremont. And I've been
Oh,
wearing
interesting.
a I've been wearing a Bremont uh, submarine um GMT, the new one with the green and blue. I bought
Okay.
it on I bought it on a cruise ship actually. Got a really good deal on it, haggled them down, and I
Yeah.
found myself wearing that almost all the time, which is it's surprising how that happens because
Yeah.
I never would have gone and actively tried to buy a Bremont watch, but
Yeah.
just because I didn't I don't didn't really originally like their sort of ethos and what they were about. I
Yeah.
mean, they did some good things for sure, but they also made a lot of marketing missteps, and
Yeah.
it just I never warmed to them. And when I had this captive audience on a cruise ship, and I was looking at it every day, it was like a 7-day cruise, and
Yeah.
I got to hold it. And it's not perfect by any means. In
Yeah.
fact, it's nowhere. They're nowhere near worth their. Not nowhere near. In my opinion, they're not worth their I should say, in my opinion,
I got
a little high the retail price. I
yeah,
should
yeah, yeah.
say
No,
on
I
what you
understand.
get.
That's the thing that you brought up that was just interesting. Like, you're on the search for the perfect watch. It sounds like, right?
Mm,
Um, I and I do believe that people can find their perfect watch. I've given up that idea, right? I've given that idea because I don't like and this could be another discussion that we can have. Like I don't need every watch to be perfect, right? I just need the watch to be right for that particular moment in time, right? So like,
yeah,
um, I have accepted that I'm not a one watch guy, and that I'm a multiple watch guy. Now I don't know what multiple means. I don't know if that means three. I don't know if that means 10. You know what I mean? But I like having watches that have like a specific purpose,
yeah,
um, in within the collection, right? So like I like to have like the dress watch. It doesn't have to be the perfect watch, but if it's dressy and it's nice, I like that. Divers, same thing. They don't have to be perfect, but I gotta really like them. And so like I wonder if you just add if you're adding that pressure to yourself, and it sounds like you're aware that you do that. Um, but you're not going to be a one watch guy.
no, no. I mean, I'll end up with more. I mean, I'll that Christopher Ward Elite 1000 is
Yeah.
phenomenal. That is probably that is the shame about that watch is that it was never their marquee one in the collection, and partly because it had, it was still the last of the ones that had Christopher Ward on the dial,
Mhm.
which I'm a huge Christopher Ward fan, but that looked weird. Christopher
Yeah.
Ward on the dial,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
definitely looked weird. Um, but that watch it's incredible. I think it's better than a Pelagos,
Mm,
Tudor
okay.
Pelagos. They did send. I should put like on mine contains product promotion because they did. That was one they did send me, which the only one they've ever sent me.
Yeah.
But that's an incredible watch. So I'll always keep that. I've obviously got the ones I inherited. The Bremont for now is a flavor of the month, should we say?
Mhm.
The Garmin that might come and go.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm selling the. I really wanted to support Nicholas at Fears, so I bought this and actually sent me this. I think I was one of the first in the US to buy it, but I don't need a dress. I mean, that's a sports watch, I think, but
Mhm.
I don't. I keep thinking I need one, but then I don't wear them. Do you know? I
Mhm.
don't. I'm gonna stop kidding myself that I need a dress watch. I think
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
at work, I mean, I work for a tech company, so it's not. I'm not at formal
Yeah. Yeah.
having
Same.
them
Same
or
here.
anything.
Look, same here. I mean, there's really no need for me for a dress watch, but it's my favorite kind of watch,
Yeah,
right?
I
Like
just
I
think
don't have many of them. I've never had many of them, but I just think there's something um exquisite about like a simple three-hander, thin, um, precious metal even watch. And then some of these dressing, they add, you can have complications, right? And,
Mm.
and some of those complications are great as well. I mean, like, the more the merrier. But for me, that is, I mean, like, you pop over the movement side and you have this intricate, you know, um, engraving or guilloche on the dial or
Mm.
in the movement side. Like, that just to me is just like, is what watchmaking is all about. And don't get me wrong, I love a good diver too. I mean, like, most of my collection is divers, and so like you would say, okay, well, Rob, I mean, like your favorite kind of watch is a dive watch, and maybe it is. Maybe I don't want to admit that to myself, but I love dress watches. Now, going back to fears, like, look, I'm not gonna put you in a spot because I know you have a relationship with Nicholas, right? Is his name Nicholas?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Um, I, I've had uh, I've had one in for review, um, and although they're nice watches, right? They're nice watches, but I feel like, and you can maybe relate this to Bremont in a sense, not about a little bit about the price, but I feel like he does a really good job of telling a story, right? And that the company was in his family, he's brought it back and whatnot. And I think the guys from Bremont, like, trying to, really get like this, like, British brand, and pumping that the way they do, and its relationship with, aeronautics. I don't know, whatever. Um, but I feel like some of these, like, watches are, I mean, they're not really worth what they're worth. And I find that I struggle with that because I love the story, right? But I feel like it's, if you're in and out of watches a lot, it's a very slippery slope to get into because you know um you may get not in trouble. You may get hurt financially, or maybe that's just being too drastic or dramatic. But there is a loss. There is a loss
Yeah,
with that.
yeah, I'll separate. I'm just about to finish the review of this, Fears. I think this watch is well worth the money.
Mhm.
It's using a Le Jeu Perrier movement. They're like $3,300, and you get it on this. You also get a bracelet, which is very
Mhm.
well machined. I
Mhm.
mean, it's on par with watches that you would spend that much money for. The attention to detail. Now, the
Yeah.
thing that's different between what you're saying about I hear you about the Fears brand, but what Nicholas has done, and you can see the DNA in this watch, is he's taken that company that his ancestors um,
Mhm.
span up, and he's used like the original typefaces. He's
Mhm.
opened a new store in Bristol, literally a few doors down from where the original Fears store was. I think out of all of the brands that restart with just the loosest thread back to the
Mhm.
original brand, I
Mhm.
think Fears is probably the most respectful of and tries to bring most of that heritage into its actual watches. I mean, the blue that he uses and everything, it all has threads back to
Gotcha.
original Fears. So he does
Yeah.
that very well. I think the thing with Bremont is that it seemed very contrived. Like, so the two brothers who actually don't, they're like not fractional, but they don't, I don't think they even own 10% of Bremont now.
Yeah.
Giles and
Mhm.
somebody else, they'd spun the company up because their father was a pilot and unfortunately died in a plane accident. But they span up Bremont from that aviation. And then I
Mhm.
think what they tried to do was they tried to tie it in with sort of British the British military, which they did two good things there. They did the watch where if you got ejected from a ejector seat, you got the special watch. You got the watch in the color. They tied it into that. I forget the manufacturer of the ejector seat. So you could only get that if you've been ejected from an ejector seat, which is quite an horrendous thing to happen. And also, I knew that they gave an amazing military discount. I presume certainly to the British military, but I presume other military service members as well. So those were two things. But then they tried to conflate the things that made me uncomfortable was when they would do watches that would like they did one that commemorated the Second World War, and they essentially made this limited edition watches, but they were extremely expensive. And all I could think was my granddad, who fought, he was a
Mm.
tank instructor in World War II. And if they didn't make a tank specific one, they made the more aviation. But I was thinking, if they'd made one that was specific to the tank regiment, he wouldn't have bought that watch. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the because it was like £7,000 or £8,000, and I was like,
Mm.
you're not. What are you commemorating there? You're not celebrating the people that
Yeah,
were in World War II. You're basically trying to profit off it because this watch was at the time was more expensive. That was my perception anyway.
yeah.
And then they did a couple of other, like they said they had in-house movements when they didn't. They were
Right,
just
right, right.
refinishing ETA. During COVID, they Fairer, who their whole brand is based on, or one of their icons of their brand is the Land Rover Defender. Fairer like auctioned off a Land Rover Defender for the NHS, for the nurses for the NHS, and donated that money. And Bremont's idea was to make a flipping, like a band with Bremont on it that you had to buy, and
Yeah,
then they were donating that money to it. It seemed less philanthropic
yeah, yeah,
to do, have a brand that says you buy this for 50 quid, it's got Bremont on it, a
yeah,
band that you have to wear, and we'll donate the profits to it.
yeah,
Whereas
yeah, yeah,
Fairer were like, hey, we've had this Land Rover Defender restored. You've seen us with it. We are auctioning this off. And like, and Oris made those special watches that they auctioned off for a lot more and donated that to the NHS. So it just seemed like they were. And then when they made those watches with Ronnie Wood from the Rolling, and with a Sharpie, and it looked like a 5-year-old child had drawn these dials on these watches, and they were wanting, like, they've actually now on the website, I don't think they sold any, or they sold like very few. I think they had 50 done, and I think 40 odd are still on the website. They used to have the price on, and they were like £30,000. Now it just says apply here for a price. And if
yeah,
anybody's not seen these Ronnie Wood watches, they're hilarious. Like,
yeah.
I'm sure actually one of your kids, Bobby, could have done a better job with a Sharpie on it.
Um,
So it was a brand that I was always wanted to like, because they were very British, but
yeah,
they just was it just a couple of things they did made me uncomfortable. But hey, I ended up buying one, and to be honest, I think the new ones that they've released are such a misstep. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't believe that passed even the basic design
I know. I,
stage.
I was I was about to ask, like, to get your take on that. I know we haven't really spoken since Watches and Wonders and those releases with the new management, right? But man, I mean, is anybody had a worse year in the watch world than Bremont right now?
It- it's so funny, because I think about, if those watches had been released, the chronographs were, say, like $2,000, and Hamilton was on the dial.
Yeah,
Everyone would have been like, that's absolute genius, because that's what they've done. They've taken the DNA,
yeah,
and it's not even a homage, is it? It's like it's almost the design language of another brand,
right.
and almost like co-opted it. It
Yeah,
seems like,
yeah.
um,
Brutal.
yeah, it's wild, really.
Maison, I wear my 50 fathoms most
Yeah.
often, robust, waterproof wear as well. And the Moser Pioneer Mad Swiss Red is a sports watch, but it's the closest thing I have to a dress watch. It's a beautiful watch.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, like, I'm back and forth with collection and collection sizes. It just seems like it happens organically every year or two, where I downsize, I feel guilty, and then I go ramp up again a little bit, and you know, just trying to find. I'm still trying to find myself as a collector. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I think I'm like that as well. I think just experiencing new watches, and I'm definitely honing down the watches that I'm reviewing on the channel. I used
Mhm.
to like doing a lot of micro brands, but
Yeah.
I think that I, not I know the audience is fatigued by micro brands, and ones that, they some of them are very paint by numbers, aren't they? Like, oh, it has an
Mhm.
H35A in it, oh, it has Sapphire. And also, as a reviewer, it's hard. It's hard unless there's something special about it. As a
Yeah.
reviewer, it's quite
Yeah.
hard to energize around something, even if you do are if you do like what the brand's about. So I've
Yeah.
been turning a lot of micro brands down, not because I don't like them or I don't like the people that are running them. It's just that I don't. I honestly think Jody is the only one that can do a good micro brand review that people will watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and so quarantine definitely poured gasoline on YouTube watch content creation,
Mm,
right? We were all stuck. Um, a lot of people we were getting the economy was getting pumped with money, and people were looking for um, things to buy, and so watches were being bought by a lot of people, and content creators just like myself kind of like got involved and joined a party. And I feel that now um, it's sort of consolidating at the top, right? Like the big watch reviewers are just getting bigger and bigger, right?
yeah.
And then like by the time a channel like mine gets a handle on the watch, I'm like the 10th review of it. And so I thinking that reviews might be dead, for a lot of us. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm only speaking because I am actually in total agreement with you on almost everything you've said. I think that like the pandemic was we were very much out of control about something that we didn't fully understand at the start. I think, and then people saw like tangible things, didn't they? Like, you know, uh, it was this thing in the ether that we didn't understand really, but when we were seeking these like tangible things. Um, but now I think that we're through that, and now I'm more thinking about just reducing stuff so that I can start experiencing other things
Hmm.
rather than during the pandemic. It was things
Yeah.
were precious, weren't they? You realized how precious things were
Yeah.
to you that you had, because that might be all you had because the shops were shut and stuff like that. So,
Right.
but now I think of more being more lighter with
Yeah.
stuff, and having funds accessible if you do want to go on holiday or
Yeah.
what.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. For sure. But I mean, like, even like the subject matter. Like I don't do many reviews anymore. I only do pretty much reviews of watches that I've owned recently. I mean, I get some sent in from friends who
mm,
and I'm lucky for that as well. But it's like more like I think like right now. I mean, like like it's more topical. I kind of like doing that. I mean, I just
mm,
put out a video on Bitcoin
yeah.
and whether to buy
Oh,
Bitcoin or luxury watch this year, and that video is tanked. I guess because people on my channel who subscribe are not really necessarily interested in that, and that's totally fine. And so I've gotten to a point where I'm just going to make videos, Sam, that I find interesting, and I don't really care about views or
yeah.
subscribers anymore.
I had a funny conversation actually the other day, and this has turned into a bit of a therapy session that people are watching.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
everyone.
fine. The
But
people like to see what we're
yeah,
talking
and
about.
what you're saying about reviews, because the reviews, however, if you've never done one, however long you think it takes three times that
Yeah,
length
yeah,
of time. This fears I've been reviewing almost this entire week because I wanted to get every component of it correct and that
yeah,
I'm relaying everything correctly. And I did a G-Shock review. In fact, the last G-Shock review I did, I paid somebody to edit it. So I did all the B-roll and did all the talking bit. And I actually paid another company to edit it, thinking, oh, that might actually help or might help the views, because it's hard for me to objectively look at an
yeah,
edit and think, oh, is that entertaining for people? But I think you're right in terms of the watch reviews dead, because it is very hard to get reviews on it. And actually, one of my panelists on Sunday said, "Oh, you should do it. Just do it because you enjoy doing it." And I was thinking to myself, I don't enjoy doing a review and then nobody watching it. Like, I
yeah,
enjoy the process of doing the review, but YouTube is almost like the eternal buzzkill, isn't it?
yeah,
For
yeah,
especially if it's if it's a watch you're passionate about or a
yeah,
subject that you're passionate about. For some reason, the YouTube gods don't. don't look on you. And those two guys, the like two very famous YouTubers, the Try Guys, they came out this week and they're actually starting their own streaming website because they're at the top of the YouTube sphere. Even they are saying that it's hard now with the YouTube algorithm. Even people who want to watch their content don't get recommended it anymore.
Wow.
So they're actually saying, hey, we're still going to do it on YouTube, but also there will be this one website, this one streaming service where everything from us will be there. So I think even some of the big YouTubers are struggling to get eyes on
Yeah.
content that they typically used to do quite well on. And I think that's, reviews for me. It's weird. You could drive yourself crazy, can't you? Thinking, uh, you know, trying to work out the YouTube algorithm and why
Sure.
some things are working well and some things aren't.
Yeah. I figured out that there's no figuring it out. Like that's
Yes.
it's just like it's a lot of like I mean like I'm sure some of the bigger channels they have like a team. They can afford a team of people. I'm not talking like a huge team, like a couple people, like that like SEO, like editing, like that. They just know what to look for because it does change a lot. The YouTube algorithm, even YouTube will admit that, and they'll put out videos for us content creators, and there's other services like TubeBuddy that'll be like, okay, you got to do this now because this is what people want. People want to see shorts, and it gets a little much. James is saying, I think it's okay to get bored with watches you love. I agree.
Yeah.
Notice that Bobby's online shopping list always mostly dress watches. Every time I put up my eBay watch list, it's always a lot of dress watches. It is true. Hey Kelly, good to see you. Bry50, my wife bought me a 10-slot watch box, which acts as my justification for having so many. Then I think I should get down to one or two watches, but I don't want to upset my wife for not using the box. Hey, I like the way you're thinking.
Good one.
So does Bill. Um, and sometimes you have to do the hard thing. Keep buying. Well, for sure, for sure. Anyway, it looks. I mean, like, are you? Maybe we'll wrap this up. I mean, like, are you? What are you looking at? I mean, is there anything in particular in mind that watch stuff, related that you could see adding to the collection, a core collection? I'm just talking like core. Is there anything that you
Yeah.
fancy? Yeah,
At the moment, there isn't. I've been wearing that
yeah,
Bremont a lot. I've been
mm,
wearing a garment for the last week or so, and I've been wearing that Christopher Ward because I think they have like a story about their British brands. Christopher Ward. I work with them quite a lot. There is enough of a story because it's weird sometimes, especially when I sold the Rolex. It was you like selling a piece of like who you are as a collector, aren't you?
mm,
Really, because you
mm,
could say, oh yeah, I own a Rolex Datejust and so on. And I think each watch has like a little story either that you've made up yourself or the reason that you bought it, like how it represents you in some way. So I think at least those Christopher Ward and Bremont have got a very good story around why
yeah,
I own them and why I like them. And it wasn't just like a transactional thing. They both mean something to me. But I haven't got my eye on. But like you said, I mean, I'm just in a I'm in the downward part of the roller coaster now. I'm,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
in I'm in like the flat straight bit before it kind of kicks off again. So
yeah,
there
yeah.
isn't anything. Nothing's really. I mean, is there anything that you've seen over the last couple of months that really excites you? I can't think of one watch that everything's going like the integrated bracelet
Mm,
is still get. It's
mhm,
still that trend is drawing out.
yeah.
Citizen are even doing a great job of their integrated.
No, no, I I have the GMT, the Series 8 GMT. That's an
Yeah,
integrated bracelet, and I love it. No, I mean nothing that has been released recently that I'm really eyeing. I mean, I still have a fantasy of getting the Geo Panel Reserve, although I'm going to hold off on that because my previous videos I stated I'm putting that money into to Bitcoin just for this year. And I don't know. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about Grand Seiko, and I know you've had your ups and downs with Grand Seiko. But I'm thinking of Grand Seiko as a possibility, sooner than later. Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely had up and down. It's funny, I bought some more crypto as well, but I bought Bitcoin and Ethereum. I had like a big position for a long time in crypto.com Crowcoin.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I just like a couple of weeks ago, I just had to be honest with myself that it's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
unlikely to come back to the peak of what it was. So
Hmm.
I ended up buying buying into just another fund, but where they blend it across. It's in like a robo investor, but
I gotcha.
it's a crypto one, but it's tied to
Yeah.
one of the other big robo
Yeah.
investors. So I think I'll just keep going. I know you do this, but I've sort of dabbled with it, but never got into it of like like gold and silver.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I've kind of like I've kind of rethought that.
yeah,
Um,
it's where you store it all, isn't it? Like I think,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, well, there's that. Yeah, I mean, especially with silver. I mean, that adds up pretty quickly. Gold is not. Gold you could hide a little bit better,
yeah.
but I don't know. Like I had like a fundamental thought shift a couple months ago, and and we'll just talk a little crypto here for the chat. Sorry about that, but that's where like I was like I should be putting some of this money into Bitcoin, and I um just lost my thought on that.
You
Um,
had the gold and silver. You were stacking
yeah,
silver and gold.
yeah, and I'm just keeping it simple with Bitcoin. I'm not dabbling with any of the altcoins. You know what I mean? Not even Ethereum. And I know they had a big news on Ethereum yesterday where
They
they
did. Yeah.
with the ETFs. So that looks like that's going to happen. But um, Bitcoin is the biggest horse in the race. It's the fastest horse in. I mean, it might not be the fastest horse in the race, but it's the most reliable. It's going to be there forever. And so, well, I mean, compared to the other coins. So
Well,
I just.
yeah, they got the Ethereum. That's what I did. I bought Bitcoin and then I put more money into Nvidia because
Mhm, mhm.
they're going to do a. This isn't financial
10.
advice, but they're going to do a stock split, aren't they?
Yeah, 10 to
Into
1.
one.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm invested in the S&P 500 fund at work and for 401k and in NVIDIA's. I have exposure to NVIDIA through that, right? So I'm good. What I've learned, right, over the last couple of years, more than that, last maybe 20 years, is that I'm not good necessarily at picking stocks. So let me just let the experts, ETFs, S&P 500, take care of that. And if I want to dabble into crypto, I'm just going to buy Bitcoin, dollar cost average, and that's it. I'm going to keep it
Yeah.
simple and not sell. And that's another mistake I've always made is to sell, right?
Yeah.
Before the magic happens. So
Yeah, I held on to Doge for too long.
yeah,
I rode that. I nearly rode that to the bottom for some reason. But
yeah,
yeah, you're right. I'm doing the same. I'm DCA in dollar cost averaging into into that. But yeah, I bought Nvidia. The stocks that I bought individually were Nvidia, Apple,
yeah,
Tesla,
yeah,
Lucid,
yeah,
Lululemon, because
yeah,
they
yeah.
say buy stocks where you shop. Not my wife is a big Lululemon
Right.
lemon fan, so but then I have that trust. I have a same with my 401k. It's not directed. It's
Yeah.
they direct it for me. But and then I've
I
got
mean,
other
I've
ones
had
that are similar.
we've had together, my wife and I, we've had some successes picking stock picking at one point, and it was the real easy ones, right? It was like the Apple, it was the Amazon, back in 2015, 2017. Still, not early. I mean, obviously Amazon had done a run up, but they did another leg up, and we got lucky, and we used some of that to buy the business that we have, but um, but look, I mean, I bought AMD at 4 and I sold it at 450, and now AMD is like what 130. You know what I mean? So like it's stupid stuff like that,
I did the
and
same with
that's why.
Amazon. Yeah. I bought Amazon very low.
Yeah.
I bought it in the same with there was a that Mercado Libre, which is like the South American like Amazon. I bought that
Okay.
low and then I ended up selling. I ended up I got I've actually come off Robinhood now because Robinhood made it too easy to just swipe up, and Robinhood like built the anxiety because you could literally swipe up and sell something or swipe
Yeah,
down, swipe
yeah,
up and buy it. So yeah, I've got it in a more of a stable, like it's not as easy to trade in the account than just clicking a button and
yeah,
selling it
yeah,
all.
yeah.
Also, you lose a lot on taxes, don't you? Which you don't realize if you're
Absolutely.
buying and selling in an airport.
Yeah. So chat, definitely do not take any financial advice from Sam and I.
No,
We're
not financial advice.
talking-
This is not financial advice.
So that's why, because we give really bad financial. We'll give you bad financial advice.
Yeah, that's maybe we should. Hey, that's the finance bros. That's the biggest CPM, isn't it? That's the most the most money per thousand
Yeah,
views that you
yeah.
can get on YouTube is to be a finance bro. That's why there's so many. Maybe we just do a bad financial advice
Bad,
channel. Yeah,
bad finance and
bad bros.
fitness
Yes,
channels are.
yeah. How to get unfit and lose money in the stock market.
Yeah.
Like and
In one.
subscribe.
Well, Sim, hey, bud, thank you so much for talking me into doing something tonight. I appreciate it, and it was a lot of fun. Chat. I hope you get some entertainment out of what we're talking about tonight, especially with our crypto side. Non-financial advice, please. Anyway, guys, have a good weekend, holiday weekend. Sam, you have a great holiday weekend too, and
Yeah,
we'll see you guys next week.
yeah. Cheers,
Take care.
buddy.